I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Now, today we're reading the book of Acts, chapter 16. Let's focus on verses 36 through 38. The jailer reported these words to Paul: "The magistrates have sent orders for you to be released. So come out now and go in peace." But Paul said to them, "They beat us in public without trial, although we are Roman citizens, and threw us in jail. And now they're going to smuggle us out secretly? Certainly not. On the contrary, let them come themselves and escort us out." And then the police reported these words to the magistrates, and they were afraid when they heard that Paul and Silas were Roman citizens. You know, in the Bible, believers in the Messiah, Jesus, are often called upon to be servants to others. I mean, that really is the greatest among you will serve the weakest for the sake of the gospel. And oftentimes it feels like we're called to be doormats, letting everyone trample on us. For instance, we're not to sue each other in court. We are to turn the other cheek and go the extra mile, as they say. And before we start feeling too sorry for ourselves, let's be reminded of Jesus' humility and his sacrifice. He left the glory of heaven to be born in a stable, and he was brought up in an obscure town in Nazareth, kind of a rough town, and he hung out with the poor and with the lowly. He was insulted and beaten by pseudo-spiritual religious leaders, and he willingly suffered an unjust criminal's death, all on our behalf. But there's one situation in which we're expected to stand adamantly refusing to give ground, and that is where the gospel itself is at stake. If the gospel can be served better by fighting back, well, then we should fight back. But of course, the fighting should be conducted biblically and by spiritual means. Now consider the words of the Apostle Paul, 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 3 through 6. "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ, and being ready to punish all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled." You see, if we are not in a spiritual battle, well, then why has the Lord issued us spiritual armor? Ephesians chapter 2, verses 6 through 10, Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 through 18. "Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against the spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand." So in today's chapter, we see Paul using several legitimate means to fight back. He mentions his own Roman citizenship. He points out the officials' illegal behavior, and he demands public redemption for public insults. Paul does all of this to ensure his proper treatment, but not because of personal pride. His concern for the gospel extended to include his desire to ensure that no one in Philippi would come away from the incident with the impression or the misimpression given by Paul's accusers. Their accusation against Paul's preaching was that the message of the Messiah is not for Romans. The bottom line is this: Paul was a Roman. Don't tell me that it's not for Romans. I'm a Roman and you're not. Bottom line is we're not called to be doormats for the Messiah who always let people trample on us. We are called to know God through a saving relationship with Jesus, to obey his word, and to spread the good news of the gospel that all men everywhere can be saved from the coming wrath of God against sin. And there are times when we are literally called by God to suffer for the gospel. And there are times to stand up and to fight. And in both instances, the goal is the furtherance of the gospel. Therefore, it is imperative that we are attuned to the Holy Spirit's guidance in any moment, every day in His Word, so that we can discern how we are to respond in the moment. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Now, Groundworks Ministries operates entirely through financial donations from faithful people like you. And yes, we do need your monthly support. Donating is secure and it's easy at our website, groundworksministries.com. You know, another way to help is just tell people about Groundworks Ministries. Share these podcasts with your friends and family and on your social media. And of course, you can always direct folks to our website, groundworksministries.com.